Today on the Nerdy Gritty, representation in your actors. Is it important?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am Dez.
And I'm Fox.
Fox, it's happening.
Ow! Why?
I'm so excited. The trailer for the best TV show ever has just come out of season 2. Iron Fist season 2. Bum, bum, bum. I Love Lucy was a really good TV show.
Sure.
I'm not going to lie. But Iron Fist season 2 trailer just hit.
Really?
Yeah. And
Kind of surprising that it's happening.
And man, I watched it and it looks, I'm not going to lie, it looks just as bad as the first season.
Really? I haven't actually watched any of the season 2s of the Luke Cage, girl one.
Jessica Jones.
Obviously, I'm a sexist because I can't remember
Right.
the girl one.
Yep.
I haven't watched any season 2s yet.
So Punisher season 2 is in the works right now. They were just releasing some.
That I'll watch for sure.
Oh yeah, they're
Punisher
just releasing
might be my favorite one out of all of them.
Some like pictures, just some
Okay,
photos,
all
like promo photos. Even they're not even like on-set photos. Promo photos for that, and it's him in his Punisher vest. Like it actually has the skull and whatnot. Because he didn't wear that in season 1.
Well, just once.
Oh, did he?
Remember when he was waiting for them to come get him in their like?
Oh
underground,
yeah.
He sprays it, and it was the perfect way to do it.
It
wasn't
good.
just constant like, this is me, I'm the Punisher, because he wasn't a vigilante. He was just a guy who had a problem to solve. Anyway, we could talk about that all day because it was amazing. But
so let's talk about
screw whatever we just intro.
But, and then I've watched Daredevil season 2 and it was really good. Just kind of delves deeper into the idea of moral neutrality and, which is what I thought the first one did so well. It was just this question of how far do you go to keep morality? And so I really liked that.
Yeah.
Season 2 of Luke Cage is also very good. It's how to be a hero when you're also an underprivileged person.
Yeah.
Is what it's really digging into.
What does heroism actually mean?
Yeah, and it's kind of getting into the Heroes for Hire, which was the monthly that both he and Iron Fist were in for a while. Yeah, they were the Heroes for Hire because, again, it's this whole thing where, like, I live in Harlem, and my girlfriend just left me, and now I don't have a place to live or an apartment. I'm sleeping in the barbershop chair of my mentor's barbershop.
Yep.
And so...
Like, wait a minute, aren't you a superhero?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be a billionaire.
And so that's really cool. And so Jessica Jones was about recovery. Yep. Like, can you recover from trauma?
Yeah.
Season 2 was, and man, it did so well. And Iron Fist season 2 looks like it's about punching people.
I mean, look, there always needs to be a greater subtext, like a reason for the fighting. But, oh yeah, look at that. I need to be closer to my mouth. There always needs to be a reason, but I really wish there was more kung fu.
This looks like you're going to get that for sure.
I want wire fu ridiculously. I want, like, Jet Li levels of, like, ridiculous.
John Woo?
Crouching, what is it? Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I want those ridiculous things. I think that's really fun. And it'd be a genre that Marvel hasn't done. Like, there's always fighting, but they don't, like, it's always supposed to be realistic or, like I want that genre where it's about mystical ninjas fighting each other.
Yeah, but these Defenders these Defenders shows, I'm going to call TV shows movies, and if you watch our Kingdom Hearts series that's coming
everything
out,
is
in
movies.
which I call
Prove me
the
wrong.
game movie. So, but the Defenders TV shows that are coming out are about, like, they're all socio, like, topical stuff going on in them.
Right, sure. And that's fair.
And they do phenomenal for that.
Yeah,
I love them for that, except for, unless their socio-topical thing is how to be a billionaire that's ignorant to the world.
See that, I mean, they had the premise for a good thing. Like, what do you do with your privilege? I think would have been a really cool, like, this guy who just shows up and is now a billionaire. And there's a little bit of that. He's like, no, we're just going to produce these. And, like, the consequences of wanting to do good but not knowing the consequence.
Right.
Like, it just didn't do as well as it should have.
Not at all.
That. So yeah,
and it came off that he was more of just an ignorant fool, than anything.
Rather,
I'm going to do the right thing. It's like you realize that doing the right thing in this situation is actually going to lose a lot of people their jobs.
Right, exactly. It's not everything's black and white. It could have shown more of like he has this ancient kung fu wisdom that when it meets the rubber of modern day life and like business doesn't really always line up, and you have to balance like how does morality interact with those kind of things. It could have been better, but hopefully they will do better. You don't know.
Well, again, as far as it goes right now, it looks like season 2 is going to be Iron Fist versus Bad Iron Fist, also known as Steel Serpent.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So Steel Serpent, I think it's Steel Serpent. I don't know the Iron Fist lore that well. It's one of the few comics that I know nothing about. But he has the power of the Iron Fist, but he's bad. It's Davos from Iron Fist season 1.
Davos?
Yeah.
Which one
his
is
friend,
that?
like his best friend.
Oh, okay.
And they end up fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Sir Davos from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, him.
He shows up. It's an epic crossover. No,
it's weird.
That'd be a boring fight.
And then a dragon comes in.
Well, that would be more interesting.
Yes.
The dragon that was supposed to be an Iron Fist was not. Anyway, so that's what you're bringing up.
Right.
We've talked about Movie Pass a little bit in the last week or two. How it's kind of dead.
How's that going?
It's still the same way, except there's like 2 different movies they allow, like you can see. Like when I open up Movie Pass, it's like you can see Crazy Rich Asians, Mile 22, which is a Mark Wahlberg movie,
right?
Or The Meg. I'm down to see Crazy Rich Asians. Like I actually kind of looking forward to it.
And be real, you've been wanting to see The Meg. Part of you has been wanting to see The Meg.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100% because I wouldn't actually be paying because I've already paid for Movie Pass.
Right.
If I do not have Movie Pass, absolutely not.
No,
that is a 100% no. But anyway, because of that, my wife was out of town all week, as you were last week, while we didn't have a podcast. My plan was I'm going to see a movie every day. It's going to be great. I can basically have a week to myself. And then that ended up happening. And I ended up seeing no movies in Movie Pass in the theater. And I could have, but the movies, I didn't want to see The Meg. Anyway, so what ended up happening is I watched a lot of movies on Netflix. A lot.
Pipes are calling.
Yep.
Okay. So what did you watch?
I watched a lot. I watched from very good greatest movies of all time, The Godfather.
Oh, you've seen those before?
Never watched The Godfather, and it was so like I feel like every time I'm trying to tell people like, oh, you haven't seen this movie, it's so good. Like little gem called The Godfather, Marlon Brando. No, obviously is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to continue watching them. The only problem is they're at least 3 hours each, and it just takes some like dedication. But they're also really good. Anyway,
and at least in my opinion, Godfather 3 falls hard.
That's not your opinion. That's the world's opinion.
Right.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, before I even knew that was the world's opinion, I saw Godfather 3 and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I watched actually several Al Pacino movies. In addition, I watched Heat. Which is
I've never seen Heat.
1995. It's a remake, but
it's
Val Kilmer, right? Val Kilmer, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like real big, real good. Like it's a fun like bank heist thriller, but also does a lot to talk about at least specifically the characters, like the similarities between the criminal and the like. There's a lot of heart to it beside just the fun action. So that was good. I watched Casino, which is another 90s. I watched a lot of like crime drama movies because I watched Godfather. It was all these were suggested, so I watched that. That was really good. I also watched the original Judge Dredd.
Yes, with Sylvester Stallone. I love that movie.
It is
wonderful.
Yes. But in a oh my goodness, a schlock way.
It is
now,
schlock
here's the
for
thing.
sure.
I own the first 6 volumes of the complete case files of Judge Dredd.
Right.
It is much closer, at least to the original like tone and like concept of Judge Dredd than Dredd 3D does. Dredd 3D, I have not read all of it. Judge Dredd has been going on for 40 years now.
Jeez.
and I don't know if it changes really in the tone. I would hope it does, and got a little more serious. But the original tone for Judge Dredd, the comics, was goofy, campy. Like, he's super patriotic. Get back here, criminal scum!
Right.
And that's exactly what it's like in the movie. And I was actually like, this is a dumb movie, but it's actually pretty accurate.
It's also one of the few times that I actually appreciate Rob Schneider. I feel like he's
he's a decent comic relief.
He is. Like, I feel like he's the perfect comic relief for that movie. Yeah. Right. Because he is so dumb, but also like
an actual human being.
Yeah, he is. It's exactly that. He is also just a normal person.
Yeah. And he introduces the idea of of gray morality. Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, I did technically an illegal thing, but only because I was gonna be murdered. Like, like what? And nope, go into prison, criminal. Like, Dredd 3D, however, way better.
Oh, yeah.
It's an incredible movie.
Well, Dredd 3D is good.
Yes, Dredd 3D is a very, very good movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I also, I don't know if it's in the comics, but the way that they did the whole psychic thing and the way that girl, like, interrogates the dude.
There are psychic things happening, and there's a lot that gets introduced in this show. Right, like there are mutants and cyborgs and robots and all this crazy stuff. I'm very excited for the Netflix Dredd show.
Oh,
really hoping
it's going to be Carl Urban.
Really hoping that Carl Urban, he wants to do it.
Yeah,
and Carl Urban is one of my favorite actors, and he was a perfect Dredd. My biggest complaint for Judge Dredd was that he took his helmet off 5 minutes into the movie and basically never put it back on. Whereas in the 40 years of Judge Dredd comics, he has literally never taken. You never see him without his helmet on.
He is his helmet. Like that's his face. Kind of like Strong Bad in his boxing gloves.
Dredd 3D. He has it off at the beginning. You see like the back of his head, and then he puts it on and never takes it off.
Right. It's like the mantle of the Bat. Like, there's Bruce Wayne, but once he puts that on, he's not Bruce. He's not Bruce Wayne in a mask. He is Batman. Right. So really cool moments in Batman Beyond, in which there's a guy that's trying to convince Bruce Wayne that he's going insane, and so he has like these these hyper sound things that make sure only Bruce can hear them, and it's like, Bruce, what do you do, Bruce? And so he is, of course, like saying, who's saying that? And so people are like, are you okay? Are you going crazy? He's like, no, I know for a fact this is not my head. I know for a fact this is something outside. 100% positive this is not real. And, or this is real, I guess. And at the end, when they find out that he's right, Terry's like, how did you know that? And he says, because I don't call myself Bruce in my head. It's so good. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
So, but here's a question about Judge Dredd.
Ooh.
Who do you feel represented Judge Dredd better, Carl Urban or Sylvester Stallone?
Well, okay, for the comics that I've read, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah?
Well, both, in a way. Sylvester Stallone was a little more campy and ridiculous about it, though. They were both, like, one thing about Judge Dredd is always that he is, I am the law.
Right.
And that's the line that you say, and it's great. But
that lawful neutral.
Black and white.
Yeah.
And if you are doing something that is against the law, you are a criminal, and there is no excuse, and you are to be sentenced to whatever is, there is no justification for any crime, no matter the circumstances. So they both do that. But as far as the comics I've read, Sylvester Stallone, tone-wise, is much more campy and ridiculous about it. So, yeah, probably a little better.
They probably each represent their time.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is representation of characters and how important that is.
Sure.
In a lot of different ways. So our topic today is how is representation important? Specifically, what we want to talk about is racial or cultural representation today, and exactly how that plays into video games, movies, and the main topic that we want to talk today is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yes.
And how this sort of plays into the cultural representation of ancient Greece. So, Fox, you had an article. Why don't you talk about what that is?
So recently, the new Assassin's Creed, which is coming out in October, is set in ancient Greece. Before Assassin's Creed Origins, in which the Assassin's Guild or whatever is created,
right?
Which was addressed anyway. Whatever. So that it's being
maybe the Odyssey that they go on is through time, and they end up.
I'd love it.
A little bit in the future.
I want it.
In which they learn about the Assassin's Guild, which has already been made in the middle past.
I want it.
And then they return back to the past.
I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Really?
Yes. I love camp. Anything can be good. And if it's ridiculous and good, then it's better.
I feel like that would betray the tone of Assassin's Creed, though.
They've already introduced weird space gods, so...
Really?
Yeah, Assassin's Creed 2. The end of Assassin's Creed 2, there you run into Minerva, who's like this like weird space god who sees outside of time and talks directly to the player.
Oh.
It gets weird. Anyway, let's move on.
Can I reveal a secret?
You haven't played any AC games?
I've never played an Assassin's Creed game. Oh, man,
they're all the same.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. Actually, you do, because they're all
essentially the same, but with various,
settings.
Various settings.
I mean, that's kind of like Elder Scrolls.
Well, no, I mean, if you've played Assassin's Creed 2, you've played 3, you've played 4, you've played, and like they're all better or worse than each other, and they all have minor derivations from each other, but they're essentially all the same idea. Anyway, so the creators of it, Ubisoft, came out and talked about how they intentionally got actors, voice actors for their characters,
right,
who may or may not have done the motion cap. I don't know if that's usually not the case. Usually they're different. Right. Probably just voice actors. They are all Greek, like actually Greek, or of at least Greek heritage. Maybe not actually from Greece or living in Greece, but people who are Greek. And they did it. Here's a quote from the audio director, Lydia Andrew. Ubisoft, what we tried to do was look for actors who are Greek or have Greek ancestry, she said. We really felt like it was a nice opportunity for us to have a deep dive into the culture of Greece and obviously ancient Greece. You can have a great actor who's great at accents, and that's fantastic, but you can also find great Greek actors and work with them too. That's from, I mean, it's a quote, but it was told to VG 24/7. I'm reading an article on PlayStation Lifestyle Net, but yeah. So yeah, that kind of like, to me, I'll play a little bit of the devil's advocate in this conversation that we have.
All right.
But I just want to talk about specifically, for the most part, voice acting and whether or not it's actually important to get people who are of the same ethnic.
Also ethic.
Oh, also ethic. Yeah. Hopefully that.
All right, hey, come work with us. Cool. Can I murder some people on the way?
Yes, good. You're hired.
What? You what? No.
No, ethnic heritage of the characters they're portraying.
Right.
And so I'll just ask you a question: do you find this to be something that's important?
It depends. And I'll be honest right now, and this is something that I've been kind of bouncing back and forth with in a lot of different ways, is I want to say yes, and I'm going to just straight up go for what I might even be a little bit of straight up racism in my brain right now, but I want to say yes unless it's a white person. And I don't know why. So like, for example, Kratos. Kratos is a Greek man.
Yes.
But has always exclusively been voiced by a black man.
Yes.
And it's been awesome, and we love it, and nobody's ever questioned that before. But if in this situation we're saying, I mean, I wouldn't mind if it were a quote unquote American white person that were to voice a Greek person.
Yeah.
But if it were to be like, I'm trying to think of
Nolan North.
No, I'm trying to think of a main character that's black in a video game.
Well, there's the problem.
I know, right? That's immediately. Nathan Drake. No.
No.
Laura Croft. No.
Nope. Seriously, I can't come up with any. This is a problem, and it might be just I don't play those games.
Here's an idea. Let's think of games about gangs and crime life. Then we'll come up with plenty of black.
What's the movie?
Grand Theft Auto.
Yep, you got.
We've just broached an entirely different.
This
topic
is a whole
right
different
now.
topic. Right. Oh, but, no. Crackdown.
Crackdown. There we go.
Crackdown 3. He's the lawman played and voiced by Terry Crews. Let's go with that. It's the only.
But if it were a white guy to come in and try and play a black guy, then there would be a lot of uproar about that and whatnot.
Probably.
And so I personally am with that. So, for example, as a 100% Mexican person that really appreciates my culture, I was genuinely annoyed in Boondock Saints 2.
Sure.
When they had their sidekick.
You didn't love that guy?
And he was supposed to be like super Mexican, but he seemed like he was from like Arkansas. Like, yeehaw, Glade. You know, it was the worst. And I feel like in a video game, if they were to be like Assassin's Creed Mexico and it's voiced by Nolan North, I would generally be like,
wait a minute.
You couldn't find Danny Trejo to do that? Like, you couldn't find somebody, Cheech Marin even, to do some voice acting in this?
Assassinate.
Yeah. And so I would be annoyed by that. Yeah. But you said you want to play devil's advocate.
No, I do. Well, I would.
Here's okay. No, I'm going to stop you.
Go ahead.
Immediately, what they said is right. You can find somebody who can do a good accent. You can find somebody who can put on the culture. You can find somebody to pretend. Why not find somebody who doesn't have to pretend? Isn't that what acting is? Like, make it as little pretending as possible. Become the reality as much as you can.
Partially, but my argument is kind of the same thing, but the opposite point. What is voice acting? It is acting. And what is acting? Becoming somebody you are not. You are taking on a role of somebody who you are not. So it's, I don't know, let's go with John Travolta playing main character girl from Hairspray, his mom, or her mom. That now, the fact that it's a male playing a female role is kind of tradition because of what's her face, that whoever it was that was in the play or the original movie or whatever it was. That's kind of a tradition, but also, let's just go with something specific or something very different, I guess. Let's go with Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark.
Okay.
Oh, sure, there are some similarities.
Right.
Rich, flamboyantly, like, out there, kind of, like, just personality-wise.
Right.
Have issues with addiction in their life.
Right.
To various things. But also, is Robert Downey Jr. A tech genius owner of a trillion-dollar tech company, guy who dresses up in a suit and shoots terrorists with missiles and fights against Captain America? No, he's not. He is becoming somebody who he is not. While there are similarities, he is acting. And so if you are a white guy hired to put on an accent or play a Greek person, or a black person hired to play Kratos, yeah, maybe you have some similarities. Maybe that guy has a child. You know, maybe that guy, and that's important to kind of be able to, but he's also not the god of war. He's also not somebody who lives in the Norse wilds and fights demons and whatever.
Maybe you're not.
And so there is always an element of acting. You are becoming somebody you are not. And so if you are a good actor, you put on somebody else's skin, regardless of whether or not how close you are to that person in real life.
Okay, I agree with you, and here's where I'm going to counter this. So let's stop looking at it from the actor's perspective, and let's look at it from the casting director's perspective.
Okay.
And let's go back to Robert Downey Jr. And you say he's not a tech genius, and he's probably not. He is not all kung fu. He's a martial arts like master, though.
Oh, is he?
Fun fact about Robert Downey Jr. Yeah.
Tony Stark isn't, though.
No, yeah, I think if Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. got in a fist fight, Robert Downey Jr. would beat Tony Stark.
I'd watch that movie.
I'd watch that movie for sure. But let's pretend there's somebody who can act just as well as Robert Downey Jr., but also is a tech genius. And while he's there, you're like, okay, Mr. Not Downey Jr., you're gonna say this, and that dude says, just so you know, that doesn't make any sense at all. I can say this, and it'll make perfect sense.
Right. And
it
doesn't matter to the story.
Yeah, it gets everything across and whatever else. And it doesn't matter to the story, but the fan service, like, there's going to be people out there who know that. Yeah. And they're going to be like, dang, that actually makes sense. And that's super cool, you know? Okay. I've been watching Voltron season 7, and it's funny how much dumb tech they've been talking about. Like, dinotherms connected. Mega thrusters are go.
Well, yeah, when you just make stuff up, it doesn't matter.
That's fan service to the original series, of course.
Okay.
But these things, like, as I watch them, I'm like, That's clearly, that means nothing.
Yeah,
that means
tech jargon.
And I recognize that. But if you can come in with as much like science in your science fiction, I think that would be super cool.
Sure.
And in a situation like this where it's like, okay, I can find an actor who can put on a Greek accent really, really well. What if I can also find a really good actor who doesn't put on an accent at all? And when they listen to people who are putting on the accent, they're like when we listen to Benedict Cumberbatch
being Doctor Strange.
Right. We're like, I mean,
I'm Doctor Strange.
You're doing a good job, but you're also trying so
Why is he not
hard.
British? I don't understand. Doctor Strange should be.
He could be.
It would make more sense,
right?
I guess.
I'm Doctor Strange.
just be British, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Like, so we who are American can tell. We can tell that he is not American.
Okay.
Everybody else in the world is probably like not able to notice, but what about Greeks watching that? Or people who are familiar with the Greek accent? It's going to be so rad to be like, dang, that person really is Greek. They know the culture, they know the world, or even like little lines like, yeah, we're going to head through Corinth up to Tyre near Sidon. And they're going to be like,
have you read the Bible recently?
No, what? It's not like I'm talking ancient Greek maps here. And they can be like, hey, just so you know, that's not what the ancient Greek map was like. You can't go through Tyre to Sidon. You'd have to go it'd be like kind of an out of way route.
Yeah, but couldn't a white guy know that?
I mean, Greek people.
Do you think Greek people just know that?
No, but what I'm saying is it's more likely for somebody who lives in Greece to know that. Like, so again, somebody in Florida could know Portland layout, but we're more likely to know that because we live in Portland.
That's true. That's true.
And so the chances of your character being more realistic and more believable is better with a Greek person than with anybody outside of that. The chances, again, it could be somebody else. And if you can find an actor that's just as good as a casting director, why not?
Okay. Now, I agree. That makes sense to me. Now let's. I'm going to move into more of the business side of it.
Okay.
This doesn't really apply to video games yet because big name actors being video game voices isn't really that big a deal to most people.
Other than Nolan North.
Well, sure, but he's a voice actor. I'm saying like celebrity.
Actor.
But so yeah, like
Johnny Depp playing Tonto in The Lone Ranger a while back.
Exactly. Or Scarlett Johansson being the Major in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
What if you want this thing to happen? What if this movie's being made, but business-wise, yeah, you could get person that nobody's ever heard of to be in this role, absolutely, and they would be more accurate to the character that's portrayed, or maybe there's not even a character that's portrayed. Like Robert Downey Jr., or Tony Stark. There's a character, obviously, just white guy. And you could get young tech genius guy who would know more about the technical smart side of things like Tony Stark would, or Robert Downey Jr. is available and he's a big name famous actor. We could get him and basically and his like persona and get all of that in there. Like that's going to be a much more successful thing. And if we want to have this whole universe happen, having somebody to kind of have that framework around whose personality is great and people want to come back to see regardless of if it's Iron Man 2 or 4 or Avengers. Everybody likes Tony Stark, or everybody likes Robert Downey Jr. because he's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So we'll come see him. Maybe that's the reason here. Like,
right. Just trying to get a big name actor behind exactly what you're doing there. And so here's what I'll say for that. I guess it depends on how heavily you want to represent a culture in that. So, for example, Iron Fist, the TV show,
sure,
there was this whole thing, we were talking about Iron Fist before, where it really falls into the white savior trope where a white guy goes into an area and because he's the outsider, he's able to see something different and he does better than anybody else. And it becomes,
100%.
That happens with a lot of different comic books are actually really guilty of that. What's called the white savior trope.
100%, yeah.
Doctor Strange is the same thing. Yeah. And so in situations like that, there's source material that you're being true to. Like, for example, to flip this around, I was one of the people that was a little bit annoyed in the most recent Fantastic Four movie when Johnny Storm was black.
Yeah.
Not because he was black and black people is bad, but because, hey, you're representing a character and that character is white. Like, what if we were doing Blade and we cast Blade as a white guy? Like, wouldn't that also be really annoying because we're trying to represent a character here, a person?
Sure.
And so, to me, representing source material or cultural stuff is important. Okay. And so, if you are casting for the Lone Ranger and there is Tonto, who's supposed to be spouting all this genuine Native American wisdom, I don't care if your movie is camped and goofy or whatever. Hey, find a Native American guy.
Yeah. Don't
cast Johnny Depp. If you want to find a big name.
I mean, they learned in that because that movie tanked hard.
Yes, it did.
Hard.
If you want to find a big name, there are so many people that you can cast like that aren't Tonto. You know what I mean? And so
sure.
There are so many different ways that you can, like, again, if you're going to be in if you're going to be doing Ghost in the Shell, guess what? That is a Japanese like cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it's big in America too. One
of the most popular
right, but
mangas
it's
of all time.
Huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Be true to the culture, man.
Sure.
Come on. Okay, you want a big name? Don't cast Ghost in the Shell. Do something else.
That's a good point.
Ghost in the Shell carries enough of its own like fame and power to draw in a crowd. Cast somebody that's going to represent that culture.
Yeah, it's the problem. It's kind of a chicken and egg. My wife and I were talking about this yesterday. A chicken and the egg kind of problem where, well, we didn't cast an Asian person because there's not, big name Asian people that could represent that person. But also there's not big name Asian people because we haven't cast them in the past when we could have. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
When you're looking for something that doesn't exist because you haven't made it exist yet.
You have the opportunity to create that. Like, for example, I don't even know the actress' name, but Colleen Wigg in Iron Fist, she's probably my favorite character in the Iron Fist shows.
Yeah, she was the most interesting person.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this.
I liked her
and does a great job.
Her pull in her character.
Yeah, I agreed. And going back and forth between the Black Hand and if they are good or bad or what's going on with them back, and she does great in that. And they took a chance on a new actress and they chose to do somebody that represents the culture properly. And guess what? She's going to get cast in other things in the future now.
Most likely.
Because she's a great actress. You know what I mean? And so why not be the person that creates that? Why not take that chance?
Yeah. As you can tell, I was playing the devil's advocate intentionally because
you swapped out pretty fast there.
I, for the most part, agree. Like, there's still a part of me, and it's probably just my inherent white guy bias. But that I'm moving into or trying to just intentionally get my brain to this point where I've come around to the idea that affirmative action is a good thing most of the time.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I watched an interview with Stephen Colbert. He did an interview with the New York Times. I watched this yesterday, actually, not intentionally like talking about this, but it came up in the thing. And he was talking about how when he was asked, what have you done to, because he hosts the late night show, and basically every big late night show is just a white guy.
Right.
And that's, my brain is like, oh, just a white guy? Oh, is it a real Anyway, I'm battling. All right. I'm trying to improve. He was talking about how, on the Colbert Report, we really had it was something we struggled with because we didn't really think about it. And it ended up just being a bunch of white people writing that show. And so when they came, and this is, I think, exactly what he said, I might be paraphrasing or whatever, but when they came on to the late night show, when they were trying to populate their writer's room, they had to tell their casting whatever, or their headhunting, their search, whatever, who was people finding those who would write, only women. They couldn't even just say, hey, we really want everybody. They couldn't say we want all kinds of, because they would end up just getting 150 and 150 like resumes, and 8 of them will be women.
Right.
And you could say, well, there's some women. And then so he would have to say, no, only women. And he'd get 90 women. And you'd be like, where were these people? Like, why did it have to take, like, just, and then, like, that's the thing. Like, you have to be intentional, according to Stephen Colbert. Obviously, I believe him.
Right.
With your casting when there is no, you know, especially in video games. This is something that we have the opportunity. It's an opportunity for video games to shine in the media industry when the idea of famous people being in video games and doing voices, especially in like even like motion capture.
Yeah,
and like
Ellen Page did a great job in Beyond Two Souls.
Lots of people in the Detroit Become Human had a guy who was in Grey's Anatomy actually. And I only know that because my wife watches Grey's Anatomy. Kevin Spacey, which I mean he's not gonna No, he's not a thing anymore, but
Kevin
he was
Spacey is bad and should feel bad.
He was in Call of Duty. Like, this is a thing now, but it's still very much at the early stages where people who are actors have voices in video games. And so we have the opportunity to, I'm saying we, like I'm in charge of it, but it would be great if video games started being extremely intentional and being 100%, we are looking for everybody to be like involved in this and not just whoever's famous or popular, because most of the time I don't even know if it's Nolan North or not until I look at unless it's Nathan Drake or I look at the credits. Like when it's just Deadpool. A voice, just read it. Like just find somebody who can be a part of that. Like I heavily encourage.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Is there ever a time when it goes too far? When representation or the goal of representation is like, come on, guys. Like, it's not that big of a deal right now.
I mean, I want to say it goes too far when what I would have said very recently probably is that it goes too far when you're trying to find a specific race. So for me, I disagree with you on this is a good example, Fantastic Four.
Right.
Because, and you also weren't just like, you had a little bit of a thing, but there is nothing about Johnny Storm that ever was important that he was white.
Right.
It is much more important, I think, for representation when it's like if Martin Luther King Jr., they made a new movie about him and it's, you know, Armie Hammer. Like, I have a dream. You know, not blackface, but he's still like representing that person. You're like, there's something wrong here. You know, the character's culture is inherent. Or maybe even something like, what if they cast Black Panther as just some person?
Right.
No, his culture is inherent to that character.
Right. Even if he was going to be Hawaiian or anything else, like not black,
I've never read Blade comics. This is where I'd say, like, I also disagree with you there. What if Blade wasn't black? There's the idea of whitewashing, but which is 100% true sometimes.
Right.
Specifically, like with Scarlett Johansson being the major. But also, I want to say, and I'm arguing with myself right now, whitewashing is, to me, more egregious when the character's culture is actually important to the character itself. I don't know about Blade as a comic book character. Maybe it is important that he's black. But as far as the movies go that I've seen all three. I don't remember any times when him being black, aside from like certain slang that he used in the script, wouldn't have felt genuine if he wasn't black. I don't remember him like, it would have been fine, other than the fact that he has been portrayed as black in the comics. And so to me, maybe that goes too far where we feel like it has to be the same color in situations where it's not actually important to the culture. Like, you know, that might be the only time when it might go too far.
I personally feel like representation is important. And I'll put a period there.
Sure.
And therefore, meaning that's like, representing the original source material. Hey, guess what? In the original source material, Blade is black. Hey, guess what? In the original source material, Johnny Storm is white. Hey, guess what? In the original source material, Heimdall was white. And that one doesn't bother me really because
that just makes sense.
I'm biased because I love Idris Elba. And
sure. I'm not bothered by it in any way, but also
He's Norse.
Norse people are going to make white gods. Anyway.
So, but little things like that, it's like, hey, there's a source material, you could do that. But to me, when it goes too far are situations like Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter very first hit the televised scene in the Justice League cartoons.
Unlimited? Was that what it was? Or
just Justice League.
Oh, okay.
Regular Justice League. And he was voiced by a black man.
Okay.
And this guy continued to voice Martian Manhunter for a while and does a great job. And he, like, to me, he is Martian Manhunter the way that Mark Hamill is the Joker.
Okay.
But now there have been different versions of Martian Manhunter in different shows and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's continued to be a black man. Even in the live action stuff, there was like a conscious searching for a black man to play Martian Manhunter because now there is this mindset that Martian Manhunter is black. But he's not. He's from Mars.
He's green.
Yeah, he's green or he's
And when he transforms into other person, the only other person I've seen him transform to is a white cop.
Yeah, John Jones.
Yeah.
And so, but in Supergirl now, which is the live action show that he is in, he's a black guy.
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah. And again, it's not that big of a deal to me, but that's when you're trying too hard, where you're looking for representation where it wasn't there in the first place.
Sure.
And so if there was a really good white or Mexican or Russian actor, that would be a
white, Mexican, and Russian. Those are the three choices.
I said or that does a fantastic voice. If Nolan North can voice John Jones, yeah, let's make it happen. You know what I mean?
See, to me, source material isn't really the most important thing.
No,
not as far as like the actual visual depiction of a source material, the spirit of the source material. It's why I'm okay with Judge Dredd and Dredd 3D.
Right.
Because they both, in their way, they actually both do a really good job of portraying the source material to the time that they are, like, created.
Right.
Because post-apocalypse, I mean, they're both, like, terrible, like, future dystopia. But future dystopia in Judge Dredd is, like, still, like, big and neon and, like, kind of goofy.
Very cyberpunk.
Cyberpunkish.
Yeah.
Dystopia in Dredd 3D is wasteland. I mean, crime. Everyone's a criminal if they're not a judge. The world is falling apart. I mean, they both have this, but it's a much more bleak outlook on the future in the 2016 or 2015 Dredd.
Yeah, I need to see that movie again.
Yeah, it's real good. But yeah, so to me, the spirit, the tone, the theme, the thematic ideas behind the source material is more important. And rather than the actual physical depiction, unless, like I said, it's actually important to the culture that is being depicted, like Black Panther.
So let me ask you this then. Let's pretend a young Denzel Washington is cast as Judge Dredd. You'd be cool with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, to me, I'd be like...
The only, like, skin you see of Judge Dredd is
his face.
His lower jaw and his neck. Like... It is neither here nor there whether he is a clone, he is future weird guy, like he is not like even really human mostly, like
right.
Very strange. And so I don't care if he's black, like, but if he's if it's Denzel Washington being Judge Dredd, but he's like emotional, goofy, I don't know if I'm really cut out for this job. I don't know if
Danny Glover.
The love of my life has been killed. You're like, that's not Judge Dredd anymore.
Right.
I don't care what his skin color is. He's not Judge Dredd anymore. Like, if you're trying to depict a source material, then to me, the theme, like I said, is more important than the actual character. And so the fact that, like, Johnny Storm in Fan Four Stick was black, okay, they're step siblings. Who cares? Like what? Like what does it matter? Like the fact that they're related also wasn't really that, because Johnny Storm and Sue Storm,
right,
Invisible Woman, are brother and sister. The fact that they're related, aside from probably some storylines, like theme, wasn't really like super important to the Fantastic Four. So just make them step siblings, or just grew up together and they're really close. That kind of thing, like.
So you would just basically say that you care more about the spirit of the source material.
I do. I care more about the spirit
of the source material.
It's why Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, even though visually looked pretty close,
so just The Last Airbender.
Similar. The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
The movie The Last Airbender looked very similar to the TV show Avatar: The Last Airbender. All the characters looked pretty similar.
Right.
Skin color was very similar. The locations, all that stuff. The spirit was pretty different.
Yeah.
And the just the characters themselves, there were other problems, like the script was terrible, but like the spirit was pretty different, and that's why it wasn't very good to me. I don't care what Aang could have been black. I don't care. Like if he's still Aang, then there's something that goes beyond just what somebody looks like. And so to me, that's why I'm perfectly fine with whatever color. Like that's what justifies, I guess it has to be justified, maybe, affirmative action. Because if it doesn't matter, then we have to address the bias in real life, because that's a problem.
Yes.
There's a problem when a certain race doesn't get cast because people are racist. So to combat it, if it doesn't matter in the source material, then make an actual effort to combat in real life, and you are addressing a problem that's even outside what you're making. Yeah, that's...
And to me, so, I mean, I think on a lot of areas we would land in the same place, but I would say that to me, I'm more letter of the source material than the spirit of the source material. I also really appreciate
it when they're very like exacting.
So to me, and it goes both ways for me. Like if somebody tried to cast a white guy as Blade, I'd be like, no. But I was the same way with Johnny Storm. I was like, no, that's not what. No. And even with Heimdall, I was like, the Penny Arcade comic is even a racist clock is right twice a day.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean,
so you're the racist
kind
clock.
of. Yeah, but also I just love Idris Elba so much.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Man.
We're good friends.
You ever just looked deep into those eyes?
I have.
Oh my gosh.
He's aware on the effect he has on women.
Yeah.
That's an Office reference.
And men.
You wouldn't get it.
Actually, I've seen that video
before.
But to me, trying to honor source material, now I agree with affirmative action because there is no source material. You can't be like, we as firefighters or as a writer's room are representing the culture of white America. No, you're not. You're putting out fires or writing stuff.
Yep.
Stop it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I wholeheartedly agree with that. But just as important as it is for Scarlett Johansson to not... Johansson?
She's from Johannesburg.
Yeah. Not to be the lead in a Japanese manga representation.
Right. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Also, just try and honor source material across the board. So that's where I land on that.
Sure.
Let us know where you guys land on this. So how do you feel about representation? If you have racist vitriol, we don't want to hear it. But if you have like thoughtful stuff, like thoughtful prose on this, we do want to hear what you have to say.
If you are somebody who it represents a certain culture or a certain, whatever, what movies or video games or comics or whatever feel like did it well, and which ones did it wrong?
I didn't even get to talk about Moana and how they made like several annual trips to the Polynesian area, Samoan area, and just really Polynesian?
Polynesian.
The Samoan area.
From the Polynesian area and have polyps. It's a real problem.
Yep. And just how important it was for them to get things culturally accurate and whatnot. So let us know what you guys think. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for dealing with our limited point of view.
Yep.
And
sorry, I'm a white guy.
Yeah, I am sorry he's a white guy too. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Remember, saved games, save lives.
Bye.